Recently in gaming we've seen a huge influx of 8 and 16-bit games, and most of these tend to seem to go on the Nintendo side of history, mocking the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo Entertainment System. But we haven't seen much on the other side, the other big giants of that day. Well, I'm here to change that and show you a game that actually takes more homage from the Sega Genesis than Nintendo. Insanity's Blade is a 16-bit style side-scrolling beat-em-up in the style of Altered Beast and Golden Axe on the Sega Genesis. It was developed by a small studio called Casual Bit Games, and was greenlit and released onto Steam on December 5th, 2014. Now personally, I was on the Nintendo side of history back when I was younger. I had a Nintendo 64 and a Super Nintendo, and I wasn't a huge fan of Sega Genesis once I got my hands on it when I was older. But I'm hoping this game can maybe change my mind on that. The game starts with a flashy company logo and a backstory where what seem to be zombies float past the screen. The story is very Shovel Knight-esque. A hero retires, but then shit hits the fan, and he has to come out of retirement to save his lover, in Shovel Knight's case his friend, and it seems a bit overdone. But regardless of it being overdone or not, you hit the menu screen. It's pretty basic, no real options to speak of, and it has one or two player option, which is kind of interesting since both players would have to be at the same keyboard trying to play. I think a LAN option would have been better here. Once you hit one player, it throws you into a how to play tutorial of some sort. But it doesn't really make sense unless you're using some sort of retro arcade gamepad or playing on a cabinet. Most people are going to play this with a keyboard, so why does it show me an arcade pad? After the how to play, you're given a bit more backstory before the game finally begins. The game itself takes heavily after Altered Beast, with a splash of RPG elements. It's definitely modeled for an arcade experience and would probably be played best on an arcade cabinet. The graphics are really appealing though, and it looks like a game from the Genesis. The gameplay beyond that is no more than walking to the right and killing everything in your path. It's basic, but really satisfying. And surprisingly, it's hard as nails. I've died on this first level a good 6 or 7 times before finally getting past it. However, I'm not sure how much death it was because the game is hard, or if that I'm just really terrible at playing it. And the controls don't help me very much. The controls are arrows to move, Z to jump, and X to attack. I find this a little bit awkward. And I come from a PC place where space is jump, so having it be Z has led to many deaths. And I don't really get used to it either. I just really don't like it. However, it is more personal preference, and I see why they did it. The Z and X are the two buttons on an arcade cabinet, and then the arrow keys would be the joystick. This is the entire reason why this is all done. And while that's kind of a cool thing to have, it is a little bit annoying for the PC gamer player. If there was an option for, say, an arcade joypad to be plugged into the game, that would be pretty cool, but otherwise, I just want to rebind the keys to something more comfortable. At the end of each stage, there is a boss fight, which I expected with a game like this, and they scale in difficulty as well. I had really little trouble with the first stage boss, dying only one time, but the second one killed me a couple more times, and then again, the third one killed me even more, and it just gets harder as you go along. I really like the scaling aspect of the bosses. I hate when these games, 8-bit or 16-bit, imitating whatever system, have bosses that either don't scale and are just really hard out of the get-go, or don't scale and are just easy the entire way through. That really annoys me. I finish a really hard level but then get a really easy boss, or I finish a really easy level and get a really hard boss. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it drives me insane. So Insanity Blade gets a major point for having scaling boss fights. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Altered Beast style games, or like I said before, Sega Genesis in general, so I won't play too far in. But I can say this definitely. Insanity Blade is a decent gesture toward the Sega Genesis and its ways of gaming. It feels very much like Altered Beast, and even a little bit of Golden Axe mixed in. And anyone who wants to have that feeling in a whole new game should give this one a shot. And it's fairly cheap as well. For its flaws, there's some pretty awesome gameplay in this, and the story does get a little bit more engaging as you get into it. And hey, I have to say, this has some really solid music as well. If I were to give it a score, I'd have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's just really good, but has the flaws that does set it back a little bit, especially the beginning areas. Once you get used to everything, it is a really solid game though, so definitely give it a chance. And hey, thanks for watching. Enjoyed that video? Check out my video on a game that isn't so great, Canada Hunt. Or check out my other series, Console Minute. I just did one on the Nintendo DS. And if you really enjoyed, leave a like and maybe even subscribe. And of course, thanks for watching. Gaming recently has seen a big influx of 18-bit games. 18-bit games.